good morning, and welcome to the Celebration Space. My name is Kaylee Phelps, and today we're talking about what it feels like when everything feels like a meeting, as we're still in the global health crisis. A lot of us are still quarantining. A lot of other countries are starting to go back into lockdowns, and we are facing a lot more rises in the virus in different areas of the country. So I wanted to talk about this. This initial idea stemmed from what does it mean to be an introvert versus an extrovert, and how is that affecting us as we're in the quarantine? So if you remember when way back in March, you may have seen a lot of memes on the internet saying that the quarantine is the best thing to happen to introverts, and it's an introvert's paradise to be inside and not have to be outside and social all the time. And it's a lot of our perceptions of introverts and extroverts are really extreme and really feed into a lot of stereotypes. So I wanted to talk about how right now, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I've been seeing and reading a lot of literature about how this is affecting us regardless in a lot of the same ways. So a couple of articles, I'll link them below here, but I want to talk about the difference between an introvert and an extrovert. Normally we see a lot of stereotypes as far as extroverts being really social and bubbly and being an open book and being maybe a little loud, and introverts being more shy or reserved or not wanting to make new friends, things like that. Whereas really when we get down to the brass tacks, it's extroverts gain energy from socialization and introverts are drained by social interactions in a lot of ways. And that can be mostly social interactions that are more high pressure or with people that they don't know. Having a conversation for an introvert with their mom is not the same as going to a party and being drained in that way. So for me, I consider myself an ambivert, which is having a lot of the qualities of both. And I actually just took a test on psychology today. I'll drop those links below. I did a lot of my linking on my computer today, so I'm gonna have to switch it over to my phone after the video. But yeah, I did one and I got 67 on my sociability from psychology today. It's a free test. It's 100 questions, and then you can buy your responses if you want more information on it. I didn't do that. I just found out when my test was. But I think for extroverts and introverts alike, I've been reading a lot of articles. One of them I'll also link is from Talkspace about why quarantine is hard for introverts too, by Wendy Wisner, and clinically reviewed by Jill Dano. And then also one from MIT Technology Review about how lockdown was supposed to be an introvert's paradise, and it's not. So I want to dive into, now that we really know one is charging from socialization and one is drained by it, it's also not always those two extremes, and introverts need socialization just like extroverts need to have alone time as well. So that's just looking very different right now. So you can take that quiz, see how you're feeling, or you could just look at different things online and see where maybe you feel you fall in the chart. And then also you could just check in with yourself about how you feel after most socializations, really thinking back to when we used to go to parties or when we used to do things as big groups of people, and how that made you feel. If going to a concert was like really overwhelming for you, or being around all of those people and doing this thing like really energized you. So there are a couple of reasons that everything feels like a meeting right now, and a lot of it is because all of our days are on screens. So if we are scheduling a Zoom happy hour, or we are trying to do a game night, or trying to do something, it's all on our phone. And a lot of people are feeling like socialization is actually more stressful now because there are no boundaries. You can't say like, oh, I'm busy tonight, because most of us are all home right now. And then there aren't any boundaries as far as body language. You can end up talking over each other. If you're on a Zoom call and multiple people are on it for a happy hour or game night, it can become really overwhelming because, especially for introverts, and I as an extrovert am also like this in a lot of ways, where I prefer to have more one-on-one conversations in a group setting and then, really kind of go through the group and get to have more one-on-one or 1 to 2 conversations rather than speaking kind of more publicly to a group of people. So that can feel really overwhelming, I think, regardless of if you are an introvert or an extrovert. And I wanted to tap into a couple of ways that I'm trying really hard to make sure that socialization doesn't drain me. One of the things that I think has been kind of overwhelming and a different mind shift for me is that everything seems like a lot more work to go outside. So rather than just throwing on your shoes and going to the grocery store, it's more of, okay, let me think about when the grocery store isn't going to be as busy. Let me make sure I have my mask, I have my hand sanitizer, I have my list, which I normally had a list before too, but make sure I have my list so I can get in and out as quickly as possible. So there's a lot of anxiety also that is kind of inhibiting how we feel about going out into the world, and that could trickle in to how we feel when all of this is over, that it's just a lot of effort to go out into the world and interact with real life human beings. So a couple of things that really have helped me are going outside and smiling and waving at people just in my apartment complex and being able to see their face or saying good morning. Coming from an environment where I lived in Chicago and I was around people all the time, on my commute, in my apartment building, in my office building, at school, like walking on the street, there were people everywhere at all times. And so if you've ever lived in a big city, you start to notice, my mom did this really sweet thing when she was visiting me in Chicago, and she said, I'm gonna smile and say good morning to every single person I pass. And I was like, okay, you are going to maybe look a little bit crazy, but she brightened a lot of people's days and people weren't used to it. It's not as normal in a city environment and kind of that socialization. So I have been walking around the apartment complex and staying, more than 10 feet from people and not wearing my mask since I'm outside. And when I see people, I have been the first person to wave and say hi and good morning or good afternoon. And it's really given me more energy to see someone smile, see someone wave, or even if they're in their cars, I've been more prone to wave and kind of initiate that interaction. So if you're an extrovert like me, maybe that's something that you could try. Also, figuring out what does recharge you. You can download my free self-care assessment if you want to see where maybe there's an area of your life that's giving you stress and anxiety and something that you could do to recharge yourself and deplete your stress and anxiety. So that's at thecelebrationspace.com/free, totally free. You don't have to do anything to get that resource, but figuring out what things give you energy, like for me going outside and like waving at an older man, he gave me life yesterday when he smiled back and said good morning back. But figuring out what recharges you, making a list of it, and then when you're feeling really depleted after 4 hours of Zoom meetings or whatever you have on your plate, really taking time, scheduling breaks, and making sure that you're able to do those things that recharge you. Also trying to figure out how you can maybe do one-on-one conversations rather than big group conversations, and really trying to dissociate work from social. So for me, I like to do most of my work calls on my computer. When my computer is open, that signals to my brain that it's more work time than fun time. And if I have a call and I want to do a video call, for me it does help to see someone's face. I like to do it on FaceTime on my phone so that my brain does not associate that with work and making it more like a meeting. It makes it more like a one-on-one conversation that I'm having with someone. So if you are doing all of your personal and work calls either on a phone or a computer, trying to dissociate what apps or what things you do just to try to, or even if you would make all of your work calls in one room in your home, when you make social calls, trying to do it in another room of your home, just so that you're kind of breaking up that monotony and not making it feel like a work meeting or something stressful, trying to dissociate it to make it something more fun. And then, of course, limiting your exposure to news and, screen time overall. Looking at screens drains us as human beings. It dries out our eyes. We're sitting for long periods of time, so we're sedentary and we're not moving our bodies. So it's natural that if you are sitting in front of a screen for hours and hours and hours, and then you have a virtual happy hour where maybe you would go to a bar or to a party and you would be standing and walking and hugging and talking and being more on your feet, it might feel more draining to be in a social experience that's where you're doing the thing that you've been doing all day rather than going somewhere and doing a thing that you would be moving around a little bit more. So just limiting your screen time as much as you can, turning on notifications that are gonna tell you about how much screen time, the ugly truth that maybe you don't wanna see, will just help you to be more aware of how much screen time you have and maybe ways that you can cut back on it. And then last but not least, being okay with saying no. So if you have friends or family that are trying to schedule a lot of calls with you or want to speak with you or have a phone call, there are going to be days, I know it's hard to do because a lot of us are home a lot of the time, but it's okay to just say, no, I'm having a day and I just need to take care of myself tonight. Or, hey, I have a really call heavy week this week. I'm trying to limit myself in the amount of screen time that I'm doing this week. Maybe we could just do a phone call, or we could wait until the weekend and we could just set apart some time and I could, FaceTime you while I'm walking around the park or something. Really trying to set your own boundaries and making it really clear. It's not that I don't want to talk to you, it's that I need to protect my self-care and protect my energy of whether I'm getting energy from this situation or whether I'm, losing energy from this situation, and making sure that you are not sacrificing your energy just to give, and then find yourself in a place where you are totally depleted and you're not actually going to show up to that conversation with that loved one in the best way if you are not protecting when and how you're doing it and how much you're able to bring to the conversation that I know that you want to bring and ask and be conscious and aware of. So everyone's going through it. I hope that we find a solution to this sooner rather than later and we're able to get to more situations that are more common. But just keeping in mind that if you're an introvert and you're like, I should be thriving in this time, don't put that pressure on yourself. If you're an extrovert and you're like, I should be doing more social things, why do I not want to talk to friends and family? Why does it feel overwhelming to go outside and go to the grocery store? That's okay too. We're all going through this, and all of our personality types are being changed and altered by a lot of these different circumstances. And you just have to take care of yourself and stay self-aware, continue learning about your ever-evolving self and making sure that you are doing what's best for you so that you can show up for your loved ones in this time and beyond. So, any questions, any ways that you like to recharge yourself, or ways that you've seen your personality or maybe some of your anxiety shift from maybe going from being more of an extrovert to being more of an introvert, or maybe you went from more of an introvert to wanting more social interaction and becoming more of an extrovert, please drop anything below. Please feel free to message me, have a bigger conversation with me about this, or we can, just continue to provide more resources and community in this environment. And that is what I have for you. Please remember to take care of yourself and your energy today. Download the self-care assessment if you think that might help. And until next time, enjoy celebrating today.